سلام به کانالم خوش اومدید. من مکس هستم با زبان ها خیلی دوست دارم. با امسال من فارسی یاد میگیرم. In this update, I will tell you exactly what I've done for the last 86 days. So this is the autumn update, and I'll tell you exactly how many hours I've studied and of course what I've done during these hours. You can use that to learn Persian as well, of course, or if you're a Persian and you're learning English, you can use this video to learn English. So you can see that somebody's out there that is also just messing around and trying his best. Why should you listen to me, right? So I'm a Dutch teacher. I've learned Spanish, German, and English before to a very high level. I've learned French to a B1 level. I'm still improving my French. So the combination of being a teacher with learning those languages, I think means that I have a pretty good idea of what I should do to learn Persian. I'm experienced, that's what I'm trying to say. I didn't study linguistics and I haven't learned 20 languages like some other people out there on YouTube. So this means that I will make a lot of mistakes along the way and that I can share these mistakes with you so you don't make them. During these 2 years, I've been doing lots of other things besides from learning Persian. That's a good thing because it means that if you have a busy life, and you probably have, maybe you have a job, a house, maybe you even have children, but you still want to learn Persian or another language, then you can follow along how I do it. And I hope that shows you that you can, even with little time, you can still learn Persian. It will just take a couple of years. I really hope you enjoy the video. So for the last 86 days, I've studied for 2,142 minutes and 35.7 hours. Now, about 7 hours of those were watching Shahrazad. 10 hours of those were reading on Link. 2 hours of those, I read the short stories in Persian book. The other minutes were probably listening, listening to the podcast called Podgap. Okay, so let's move on to the first month. Which was the end of August and then the whole month of September. Now, in that month, I did 14.7 hours of studying. That is about 0.47 hours per day, so a little bit less than half an hour a day, which is actually my minimum, half an hour a day. I do write at the 28th of August that I feel that I'm reading faster. So I do feel that I'm reading faster, but I was busy this week. That's actually the story of all these months, okay? So I was finishing courses, I was looking for a new house, and I was watching Shahrazad. That's what I did. Now, I really love watching Shahrazad because it also gives me a great idea of what Persian normal life actually looks like. You can also watch Life Goes On in Iran, which is also a great YouTube series where they interview people about different kind of topics. Now, the second week of September, I listened in the train to Podgap. I watched Shahrazad. I was also listening to some dialogues in the last book that I've studied, so the Persian in Use book. So you can see that's a little bit of too chaotic, okay? I'm doing 3 things at the same time, so Shahrazad, Podgap, and the book. I realized now that I was kind of looking for a new method. The week number 3, I found a method, so I had the complete Persian book, Modern Persian, and I studied 1 chapter a day for a week. I got up early, did some stretching with a coffee in my hand, and then I studied one of the chapters of the book. So I did that for a week, and then I finished the book, and then week number 4, I ended up in chaos again. Okay, so you can see that if I don't have a clear one piece of material that I want to get through, I'm kind of looking for what to do every day. And since I don't have a lot of time, if I wake up in the morning, I get my coffee, then I know that I'm going to do Persian. But I first have to decide which resource I'm going to use, right? If I'm watching Shahrazad, listening to Podgap, if I'm using this book or that book, then I kind of get demotivated because it's early, I don't know what to do. So I start stretching a little bit more, thinking about what should I do, right? And then the half an hour is already gone, and then I have to start work. I just noticed here that the first 2 weeks and the last week, I didn't have a clear idea of what I should do. Therefore, I did a lot less than the third week, where I just worked through 1 book. Then in October, I studied for 14.5 hours, which comes down to 0.48 hours per day, which is also a little bit below my minimum idea of 30 minutes a day. And the first week, I made a new Persian video, so I worked a lot on the video. Then started with a book called Short Stories in Persian. I read the first stories, and I had the idea to make an audio because these stories are very difficult. So I asked some of my subscribers, so maybe that's you, if not, subscribe right now, to read out loud one of the stories of this book, and then I would combine all these voices in an audio book and put it online for free. Now, almost nobody responded, so when I have a lot more subscribers in 1, 2, 3 years, then I'll do that again. and that will be amazing. Second week, I also read 2 stories of this book, but it's really hard. And I wrote on this day, I wrote this. These stories are a little bit too hard, and that was also kind of demotivating. So then week 3, I did not too much, but what I did was whenever I was in the train, I listened to the PodGap series. Then week 4, I did the first half of the week almost nothing. And then I realized, finally, what I can see now as well when I read back, that I was looking for a method, okay? So then I decided to sit down, make a plan, and I decided to get a link subscription again and to continue my Persian journey. Started one of those beginner courses again, and it was amazing. I immediately felt this is the way for me to do it. And I didn't mind being in front of the computer and reading at all, actually, because this was my problem back in the summer, that I was also teaching online. So I had lots of online classes during the week, and therefore I found it very annoying to also, for my hobby, which is learning Persian, sit down in front of a computer, then read and listen again, with a screen, the blue light of the screen in my eyes. It hurts my eyes. I don't really like it. I rather am outside while I'm listening on the headphones to Persian, or I'm using a real book that I can actually touch, feel, smell, and that doesn't hurt my eyes, right? But now I'm not teaching these classes anymore. I'm not doing these classes anymore online. So I don't mind sitting in front of the computer every now and then for Persian, or once a day actually. So I got back to it, and this was amazing, okay? So I started the month of November with fresh energy because I finally found my new old method, which is using Link. So I read through a few beginner courses in the first 2 weeks quite quickly, doing something almost every day. For 20 minutes or 40 minutes, right? But I really felt while reading and listening to Link that I was improving. And what I always do is I take a course, I read through the first story or dialogue, then I listen to it. Then if I really didn't get it again, I read it again and listen to it again. But most of the time now, because I'm reading high-level beginner stories, and I'm definitely a high-level beginner right now, I need to read it only once, listen to it only once, and then continue. And then, of course, when I have some time outside of my dedicated study time, so for example, in the train, in the metro, I listen to the same stories that I did that day or the previous day again. I'm still at the level where if I listen to it without the text, I get only 50 or 60% even of a high-level beginner story, with a few exceptions. But when I read along, clicking on the words, I'm just a lot faster. I also noticed that when I use a physical paper book, I need to look up the words 2, 3 times in total before I actually remember them, even if I've already seen the word before, and even if I understand the whole context of the story. So Persian is so difficult for me that it takes me so much time to learn with a normal book that actually Link is 3 times more useful than when I was learning Spanish or German. Because with Spanish or German, I could just look up a word once or maybe twice, and then from the context, I could immediately understand. But getting the context in Persian is just so much harder because I read very slow, I keep forgetting words, that looking up a word is not as useful and not as quick as when I was learning the other 2 languages, if that makes sense. So therefore, Link is more useful because I can click on the word over and over again, and I don't mind if I don't remember, because with one click, I remember. But when I was using the physical book, if I didn't remember a Persian word, I had to get my phone, type in, with the Persian script, which takes ages, then look at the translation, then go back, and then I've already forgotten the rest of the story, right? So Link is even more useful when you're learning a language that has another script. I've been basically doing Link for these last 3 weeks, and I watched Shahrazad whenever I got tired of Link and felt like doing something. I also did a high rocks training, a CrossFit competition, and when I had fever, I did it together with my father. I completed it. So, looking at all of this together, what have I learned? Well, I've learned 3 big things. Number 1 is make sure that every once in a while you sit down and make a plan for your language learning. Because I was lost. And I realized that I was lost, but I didn't take the time to just sit down for half an hour, 20 minutes, just make a plan, choose one resource or maybe 2, and then make sure you stick to it. And of course, after you've made the plan, you should think about, take another minute to think about, am I enjoying this? Am I going to enjoy this plan, right? That question you should ask. It's just so easy to do a little bit of everything. You don't know when you're improving, you're not really remembering the words. There's no hurry. Okay, so this is what I tell myself right now. I'm not in a hurry anymore. I know that I have a channel about learning Persian, and that gives me some kind of pressure, okay? But this gives me enough pressure to just continue. And I don't want to be in a hurry because I have so many other things. You know, I'm writing a book for Dutch learners, I'm doing lots of sports, I'm going to travel with my girlfriend, and these things are just as important, or maybe more important than learning Persian, because it's going to take 4 years anyway, right? So, what I've learned from these months is that it doesn't matter if I'm only doing 25, 28 minutes a day, because that's more than what most people do, right? It will get me fluent in the end. I just have to be patient, continue. So, I really hope you enjoyed this update. I've worked on it quite a lot to tell you, really in a detailed manner what I've been doing these 86 days. So I really hope that that actually really helps you. If it does, then please subscribe, and then I'll tell you month by month. I'll tell you how it's going. And I even decided to do an update week by week, a short update on how it's going for you to get inspired, motivated, to get ideas to keep going. So good luck to you, and I will see you when I speak better Persian. Khodafis.